Now it is. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, and now it is on my end. I always love it when my guests know when we're live before I do. But hey, that's neither here nor there. Hey, this is Brent Leary, and this is the first a few good minutes for this week. Actually, this is cool because it's like a few good minutes double header. Because the first 30 minutes, I get a chance to talk to my buddy Ron Miller, enterprise reporter over at TechCrunch, and then at 2:30. I know you know who this is, Ron. Jon Ferrara,
Yeah.
founder and CEO of not only Nimble but also Goldmine. And
He's
there's
been around a while.
he's been around a little bit, and but there's a special reason why I always try to have John on in September, because well he's a Rams fan, so that's always a good thing.
Well,
But but John was actually my first guest in this series, this weekly series, going all the way back to September of 2010. So this will mark 12 years, and it's always good to have John on, to talk about what's happened over the years. That not only did he found Nimble, but he founded Goldmine, and how CRM has changed and how important it is to small businesses. So that's coming up after the conversation with Ron. So Ron, let's get it out the way. I'm a Rams fan. You're a Patriots fan. So we usually don't see eye to eye on things, but unfortunately we have something
we're
in
still
common.
friends, though.
Yeah,
So
we're
it's
still
good.
friends. And unfortunately we have something in common this week because both our teams lost in week
Yeah.
one.
And
So
look kind of flat doing it, right?
yeah, it didn't look good. So I don't know what else I can add. I'm still, I bought this. This is the first time I'm actually wearing this on camera.
I mean, you're
So
looking good, decked out in that LA gear. I
I,
gotta say.
I feel good. Hopefully, guess what? The funny thing is the Rams play the Falcons this Sunday in LA. So I'm hearing all the Rams talk from the Falcons perspective, and I'm just like, just go out there, take your beating, and come back home. That's
No, you know what's going to happen? They'll be up by 20 in the third quarter and still
oh,
lose.
28-3 maybe, or oh man. All right, so we have a lot to talk about in a short amount of time. I think we came up with a pretty decent list. The first one I wanted to go over, though, since next week is Dreamforce. It's been the biggest industry event for years now. This year is like the first time it's back to full strength since the pandemic. I believe I saw Mark Benioff tweeted out something to the effect of they're expecting 150,000 people, which is really not that far off from the big. I think it
I
was
mean, that's the old days,
170.
right? That's
Yeah.
the old days.
So, and I'm going out. You're not going out, but I'm going to go and check it out and see what it's like post pandemic Dreamforce. It's the 20th anniversary of Dreamforce. Kind of gives us a perspective for me to ask you this question, since Dreamforce is kind of the bellwether event for the industry. Um, Give me your take on where the industry is going into this big, huge event for Dreamforce.
I mean, it's kind of interesting because you look at where Salesforce is, and they just keep getting bigger and bigger, and um, they keep adding pieces, and of course, Slack is a big piece that they added in recent years, and as you kind of see them try to be this kind of all things digital to companies, it's going to be interesting to see where they go with it. They've always been a company that embraces whatever is the newest, whether it was, that when it was Enterprise 2.0 and they got into that, and when it was AI, they got into that, and whatever it is that's the latest technology, they're going to try and get there, and they're going to try and find a way to make it work for them. And it's been working pretty well. I mean, they're what, how many 20 plus $billion in revenue at this point that they are, as an industry. And I think this would be something interesting for you to talk to John at the bottom of the hour. It feels like it's a little stagnated to me, and I'm not sure where it's going to go. And at some point, you are where you are, and that's okay. I mean, there's not a criticism. It's just to say that it's stagnated. It is. It's like they've incorporated everything. They got customer service. They got everything under the sun there. And
They got
you know,
commerce, they got marketing automation. I mean,
yeah,
they got CPQ. I mean,
right,
they CDP. I mean,
right.
I'm running
Everything.
out of acronyms, man.
Right. I mean, they got everything going on, and you wonder like how much can they expand that? It's about how much easier can they make it to use, and I think that's really what Salesforce is working on at this point is like how do they simplify some of this complexity, and where do they go with it because they control a big part of the market, and you know if there's one thing that I've learned watching industries over the number of years that I've been watching the enterprises that the entrenched incumbent has to watch its back.
For real. Yeah. All right. I'm really just interested to see what happens, what comes out of next week. Had some analyst briefings ahead of time on some things, but I know there's going to be a ton of stuff that comes out. So it'll be interesting to see,
Oh, you
kind
can
of
be
what.
sure there'll be news. You can be
Yeah.
sure they'll be doing stuff, and they always have plenty of announcements. And it's like a three-ring circus when they have Dreamforce going. I wrote a I wrote a piece a few years ago after I was there called Lights Camera Dreamforce. It was just like it was such a spectacle, and they had the monks and they had the outdoor music festivals and they had they lay down the park and shut down the street and they do so much and to have 150,000 people back
Yeah.
is a real testament and to see this sort of come back and be reborn and what they did with it while they were gone to be able to make it virtual and then to take that virtual piece and make that into like their media arm has been pretty impressive to watch too.
Absolutely. I'm really, I am not as excited about the 150,000 people. That's I'll be masked up from the time I hit
Mhm.
the plane, get off the plane, and hit the city, because I'm just not really ready for that part of it. But I am really excited about seeing some of the folks and getting a taste for what post pandemic Dreamforce is going to shape up to be. So we'll see um, on that one. Okay, so I want to throw something at you. I didn't get a chance to ask you about, but you wrote about it. Um, Oracle now monitoring TikTok. Everybody's talking about TikTok, so this is kind of why I was interested in it. So Oracle is involved with TikTok's and its algorithm, and TikTok's algorithm is its business. I mean, this is the algorithms are what put content in front of people, and it's not necessarily people putting content in front of people. It's algorithms doing that, and so seeing how Oracle is playing a role in monitoring this, and the also you can't help but look at the Chinese government's role in all this. So you have big enterprise Oracle monitoring huge social
Right.
network TikTok on the kind of on the geography of China. What are some of the big implications for this combination of Oracle monitoring TikTok with China looming in the background for the enterprise tech space, let's say?
I mean, it's pretty interesting. I mean, this was really Sarah's story. I will be transparent here, and I came on to kind of give some enterprisey background on this whole TikTok Oracle involvement, and that goes back to that whole shotgun wedding that happened under the previous administration. Where TikTok and Oracle kind of being like well, TikTok was being dragged to the altar with Oracle. That ended up not happening, of course. Um, but now we have this rather bizarre turn of events where um, they've been put in charge of monitoring the algorithm. And the thought that came to mind when I saw this was it's like the fox guarding the henhouse. I mean, it's it's a bizarre setup, and I'm not sure like whose idea this was. Um, but it's like they were supposed to do business together, and now they're supposed to be monitoring. One's supposed to be monitoring the other. The whole thing is just kind of a head scratcher to me.
Yeah, yeah. Do you see? This is kind of a unique example, but Do you see this as potentially being kind of the first foot in the door for more enterprise SaaS companies starting to do more in China?
I mean, I don't know that this is about, Oracle doing any business in China per se. It's
Hmm.
more about Oracle being put in charge of, as I understand it, making sure that the Chinese government isn't monitoring TikTok activity in the United States for some political reasons. And again, I'm not an expert on this, but uh, I don't know that that has anything to do necessarily with doing business there. And if anything, it may piss off the Chinese government and make
Hmm.
them not want to do business with Oracle. So whether that matters to Oracle or not, and their C-suite, I don't know, but you know they've somehow been put in this position. I'm not sure it's a comfortable position for any corporation to be in.
Right. No, I totally agree with you. Uh, there's going to be a lot of strange bedfellows going forward because,
Yeah, I mean when you start looking at that kind of stuff, and then I mean, you have a similar kind of situation in China, though, if you look at it with cloud infrastructure, because the cloud infrastructure vendors can't operate without like a Chinese partner, and then so you have that kind of thing going on there. But again, this kind of geopolitical stuff is way out of my bailiwick.
David, come on, you didn't study this in journalism 101 back in the day, man.
They did not prepare me for this. No.
All right. Well, I know there's one that you are prepared for because you actually invited me to help out on this one. Zoho is a company that I think, well, in the enterprise, SMB, mid market enterprise, particularly in the SMB space, pretty much everybody knows a lot about. But as they have made the move, the kind of the progression upstream, it feels like they're starting to get people's attention outside of that traditional small business realm. And so you wrote about this, I think it was this week or last week one,
Yeah.
how a company like Zoho, who has never taken any VC money, hasn't taken any external. Actually, I'll just use your words. A company without a dime of external investment, but a lot of people don't know this, but they're $1 billion annual revenue company. They have
Right.
like 11,000 employees. They have, I think, was it 50 million people using their
Hey, they have
app?
a ton of people using
Yeah.
it. I'm not exactly sure of the number unless I look at the article, which I don't have in front of me. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the article, it has all the numbers, and
Yeah.
yeah, they're an extremely successful company, any way you look at it. And you know, one of the things that I find interesting is Zoho as a company that we know it today as Zoho. They existed before in some guise as a different company, but Zoho as we know it today launched Zoho Rider in 2005. And the interesting tidbit that came out of the story and my interview with the CEO was that their first coverage was by Michael Arrington at TechCrunch back in 2005, which is the year TechCrunch launched. So that's pretty
Wow.
interesting kind of connection there.
Yeah.
But if you look at another company that launched in 2005, that's a SaaS company, Box. They launched in 2005 as well, and they raised about $1 billion. They went public. They had to deal with activist investors, and they're just about getting to $1 billion now. They're not a perfect comparison by any means, but it's an interesting comparison that you have two companies that came out of the same year, both early adherents to cloud computing, and went very different paths. And one of the things that sort of came out in my conversation is that what not taking that investment money gave Zoho. And what it gave them was this kind of freedom because they didn't have to answer to anybody. And if you take money from somebody, you have to answer to them. Um, some investors have a light touch, some investors have a heavier touch, but um, the chances are if they're investing in you, they have a say in the direction that you're going in. And, you know, uh, he said that one of the reasons that he didn't want to take money and made a strong decision not to take money was because they wanted to have this independence. And what that independence gave them, and one of the things that, you and and Laurie McCabe, who I also spoke to for the article, talked about was, they were able to carry out their vision in the way that they wanted to at the pace they wanted to. And really the way that they went about it, and when you think about it, they had Writer and then they had the presentation program and then they layered on more and more and more software. Um, they were able to kind of throw that stuff out there for free, let it percolate, let it develop, and then become pretty sophisticated software that people were willing to pay for. And they could do it at their own way and at their own rate. And I think it's an interesting story. It's an interesting contrast to the typical way we think about startups. They kind of get an investment, they use that investment to grow, and then they go public, and then become successful companies or not. But this company has managed to become, I think by any measure, a successful company. And we can talk a little bit about their charitable side, but they've been able to be successful company with a conscience on their own terms. And I think that was what made it an interesting story and why I wanted to write about them.
I think the real interesting component is, and I'll just throw this out there to you: is there any other company that you know of that can pull off what they did the way they did it?
I mean, I don't know if, I can't say for sure. I'm sure that there are companies that built things up. But, when I think about startups and I think about how they operate typically, and Zoho didn't, you think about like if if you go back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, if somebody wanted to start a business, right? Let's say a dry cleaners or a restaurant or whatever, maybe they got a friends and family loan and either they succeeded or they didn't. And now you have this kind of, starting in the 90s and really heating up in the 2000s, you have this model where you get this outside investment and you grow your company that way. And they kind of are a throwback to those kind of earlier kinds of businesses where mom and pop businesses where they really wanted to grow a company and they wanted to hire people and be a hiring engine and take care of those people and be a pillar in the community. And I think that's one thing that Zoho can take pride in, is that they 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 take care of their employees and they take care of the community at large.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're doing so many interesting, unique things, and a lot of things that people don't know about. Um, Eventually, I think they'll come to light. But it's fascinating to see a company be able to say, you know what? Yeah, we know the kind of the traditional playbook. You raise your money, you try to do things as fast as possible, and let the chips fall where they may. They are like, I remember talking to Raju Vagesna, their chief evangelist over there, and he said, or maybe it was Schroeder. It could be either one of the two. They get their best nights of sleep on quarter close. I mean, that's pretty significant thing for an executive or a founder to say of a company as particularly that size, because usually you can't sleep on quarter close. You're too busy worried about, did we make our numbers? And these
Right.
guys are like, hey, we don't worry about that, because they don't have to to report to anybody else.
Just to sort of touch upon the freedom. Sridhar gave me a quote, talked when he was talking to me. He said part of that, that they're able to run the company the way they want. He says it comes from us staying private, because a lot of profit we earn from the business is going into this. It's going into R&D. It's going into figuring out complicated technology, and it's going into charitable activities. One thing it's not going into is buying a private jet for myself, because I'm not interested in that. And I just thought that
Mm.
that was such a great line.
Yeah.
And he said it laughingly, but it's just
Yeah,
like,
but he meant
yeah.
it. We know he meant it. That's okay. That's
Right.
cool to me.
And he's talked about how he started schools in India, and
Yeah.
he's got and I mean, Mark Benioff has done a lot of charitable activity as well.
Yeah.
Um, but again, going back to this staying private is and many companies have have a very kind of charitable arm, but this idea that he was able, Sridhar was able to build this company on his own terms is just was really fascinating to me. When you think about how most companies are built these days.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's keep it moving. You also wrote about this company paradigm and DEI, and I know this is an area that you're interested in, and I'm interested in. We have this kind of shared interest. You do a lot of stories throughout the year where you're talking to tech companies and particularly the ones that are doing the work and seem to be serious about it. What's with the paradigm and what they're doing here?
So yeah, Paradigm's an interesting company. They kind of give you data. They will do an analysis of your company. They came up with this not little, this software platform that kind of lets you, at first it connects to your HR system and looks at kind of hiring data and those kinds of things, like where are you in those kinds of numbers when it comes to diversity efforts. And then they provide a series of questions for the C-suite, which are more pointed and kind of depend on who you are as a company. Like a venture capital firm might get a different set of questions than a SaaS company. So then they take this data and they kind of give you a where are you now kind of picture with data. And so, you know, everything we look at, in any kind of ESG effort has to be data driven or it's just kind of aspirational, right? It's like, oh yeah, we want to not be polluting, but we have no idea whether we are or not. And we want to be hiring a diverse group of people, but we don't really know where we are. Or if we are, like, are we retaining people? Are people leaving after 6 months or a year because they don't feel welcome, they don't feel included? And so the effort that they do is they 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 give you this data, and then they give you like a few goals kind of to work on, and then you can work on that goal, and then you can see in 6 months, like, how have we done, how are we doing towards these goals. And it gives people something. They're not boiling the ocean anymore. They're not kind of thinking like, well, we think we're doing a good job or we don't know how we're doing. It gives them very concrete data and goals and ways to measure against that.
That's I did an interview, a conversation with Lori Castillo Martinez, the chief equality officer over at Salesforce. And we talked about, I mean, you look at Salesforce, they are wildly successful. They are the top dog in the industry. And they're the ones that have done the most in integrating DEI into the core of the business. They do it because and they put in measures and they put in along with revenue numbers, they put in DEI numbers that their executives are responsible for a meeting. And I think the aspirational stuff is great, but you got to marry it and measure it. And I love that piece that you did here. And one last one kind of on this topic you did recently. Can you talk a little bit? I've never heard of Junco.
No, I hadn't either until they their PR people pitched me. But yeah, it's an interesting process that they have. So, where Paradigm is looking at kind of measuring where you are and how to improve it. Junko is kind of looking at the top of the funnel and how can you get underrepresented groups of people into the funnel and then hire them, and how do you get qualified, highly qualified people. And and one thing I kind of open with is, there's this kind of persistent idea that it's really hard or you're somehow lowering the bar, and which is a really annoying argument to me. But
Yeah.
you know they say they can answer both of those excuses by providing a set of highly qualified people from underrepresented groups, which they define as people of color, women, and veterans. So, and then what they do is they have what they call the silver medalists. So they have access to recruitment systems, and they look at people who have gone through the entire recruitment process of, say, an Atlassian or a Google or a Meta, and they went through it, but they didn't get hired at the end. And so they are clearly qualified, but there was a bunch of factors of whatever it is that there's only one person who can get the job, right? So the theory goes that if they went that far in the hiring process, then they are pretty high quality people, and so they give these what they call silver medalists. Um, they connect companies who are looking to hire more diverse candidates, and they connect them with these silver medalists, and with the theory being that these people are going to be highly qualified and they should be like a slam dunk when it comes to you know finding quality talent.
All these things, it feels like having the gray and the beard and being around for decades in tech, and hearing about these moments that we're gonna do it, we're gonna get more people involved, we're gonna get more people in leadership positions, and nothing happens. I am feeling a little bit more optimistic about the overall potential movement that some of these companies are doing, and you hear like the stories that you just mentioned, and you see companies like a Salesforce who, I'll never forget, one of the kind of the watershed moments for me in believing, oh, maybe this is going to be different, is seeing at the time their chief of quality officer, Tony Profit. He was on the main keynote stage of Dreamforce maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and he wasn't talking about DEI. He was actually doing a product demo, and that's when it clicked on me. Oh, finally, a company gets it. It's not, you got to integrate this. You don't just do it and have it off to the side. Let these people also be a part of the core business, and hopefully, we're seeing real strides, not just one or two companies, but hopefully we'll see, real progress being made. And I love having conversations with you because you're talking to these folks. I'm talking to these folks. We need to do our joint convo sometime, maybe next year. Couldn't pull it
Yeah,
off this year, but I would love to do that again.
yeah. I mean, and I remember speaking to one woman who runs a investment firm that's aimed at underrepresented communities, and she was talking about historically. And again, she had been a person who had been around for a while, and she had been an engineer, black woman engineer in the 80s. There weren't too
Mm,
many of them,
yeah.
and so she's seen it all, and she said, like historically, the window opens, it gets slam shut, and then it's often worse than it was before the window opened.
Mm.
And we're 2+ years from George Floyd's murder by Minneapolis police, and I think the window is still open. I mean, that's my perception. It feels like this moment is extending maybe a little bit longer than others have, and I think the longer it extends, um, you know, the more likely it is to be a more sustained thing. And I hope that's the case. And I hope that, some of these things, like by you having people on your program, and by me writing some of these things, that, we help kind of keep a spotlight on this and keep the momentum going.
Absolutely. All right, we will do that. Before you get out here, you had mentioned one quick one you wanted to bring up around something that Zoom is doing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I saw that this morning. Zoom is reportedly going to be adding email and calendaring, which puts it in direct conflict with Google, with Gmail, and with Google Calendar, and with Outlook and Outlook Calendar. And this seems to be an effort on Zoom's part, and has been for this isn't new. They've been trying to expand beyond the core online meeting tool for some time now. But they went from these like ridiculous growth numbers, like 350% revenue increase during the height of the pandemic, and now I think they're at a rather pedestrian, like 8.5% revenue growth. So they're looking for ways. I mean, nobody's going to expects them to be triple digit, but I think they probably are looking for ways to get more into double digit in a consistent way. And they want to expand the platform to do that. And whether they can, I don't know if these tools, maybe with the whiteboarding tool that they added, they expanded their chat tool. They have their their kind of enterprise phone system that they have. They have a bunch of things going on that they're trying to, and that's growing pretty fast. And so they're trying a bunch of different things. I'm not sure that that
Good
that
luck.
these kind of things like calendar and email are going to move the needle, but they're trying.
Yeah, but plus, I mean, the competition for that stuff is
It's brutal.
so good luck to them. I mean, I don't know if it's going to work or not. They got to do stuff. They got to try things. So good luck to them on that. All right, Ron, this is, as always, it's been great talking with you. Do you want to help me welcome my next guest before I let you go?
Sure.
All right, because we're all kind of got the gray going. We've been around, we've seen some stuff, and of course, my next guest not only has seen some stuff, he's done a lot of stuff. He's one of the co-founders of the industry when you think about it, with co-founding Goldmine, and now, of course, he is the CEO and founder of Nimble. He is, as I like to call him, the Right Reverend Jon Ferrara is in the house. Good to see you, man.
Hey, good to see you. Hey, Brent. Nice to see you, Ron. Always a pleasure. I loved the higher power and purpose conversation that I was hearing from you both, because I think that if tech isn't doing good, isn't enlightening and empowering change in us all, then I think that it's not really delivering on its promise. Because if you think about what enterprise software has traditionally been, was about eliminating manpower and maximizing profit, which I don't necessarily believe is really in the positive good for the people of the world. And I think that diversity makes a stronger rug or rope. If you think about it, if a rope is just one string versus a combination of strings, and the strings are maybe different densities where basically the combination is bigger than the individual, I think that's really where the power of the universe is. And the conversation about software like Junko that identifies people that are different, that have gone through the process, how great is that?
Yeah.
And that the Zoom thing was really interesting to me, because if you think about it, what are they doing? They're building a contact center, right? Because Zoom is all about engagement, right? And so they started out with the video conferencing stuff, and then they have this telephony stuff, and they're adding email and calendar. Well, guess what? What's friggin' missing from that equation? Contacts. Because who are you meeting with, right? And if you think about Microsoft's whole push on Teams, it's really to empower engagement and to drive more engagement through Microsoft 365. And I think that's really the future, especially in this, our disconnected COVID world. And so if they are adding email and they're adding contact, hey, Zoom biz dev people, you need some really good contact integration. And who better to talk about contact than the godfather of relationship management? And by the way, Goldmine existed before Outlook. I mean, that's a little story. There was Outlook when Goldmine started. There was Outlook Express, which was an email inbox in DOS. And so when we built Goldmine, there was no program. First off, network business software just started, could file record locking just happened on Novell Network. So basically you could have network business software, which means you could actually share and lock records. But there was no program that integrated email, contact and calendar, and sales and market automation for a team on a network. Goldmine pioneered that before everything else. And not only that, but we added automated processes, which was market automation before market automation occurred. So we not only pioneered contact management for Outlook and sales, SFA before SalesLoft and Outreach, and CRM before Salesforce and Siebel, but market automation before HubSpot and all these other things. And not only that, but we bootstrapped it with no dime of venture or bank loans. And I think
we put it all together.
By doing that, we were able to march to our own drummer.
All right, I'm gonna let Ron go.
All right.
Because I
And
know
then,
you got things to
but
do.
John, you better watch out because maybe that's Zoom's next announcement now.
You know what? I welcome it because a lot of people try to do contacts right, but very few people do because they think it's just a contact record. Whereas contacts are much more than a name, address, city, state, zip, title. And I think that's one of the problems when people like MailChimp or ActiveCampaign add a contact piece to their market automation systems. They don't really understand relationship management. And we're going to talk about what is the difference between contact management, relationship management, and CRM, because I believe that CRM has lost its way.
All right, Ron.
All right. Well,
we're going to let
I'll
you
leave
go.
you guys to that conversation, and I will talk to you both soon. Take care.
All right. Thank you for making time, man.
I'll call you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, dude. You have not changed one bit, which is great. I appreciate it.
Did I throw down the gauntlet?
I was getting ready to say you could have. That was a mic drop moment, but we still got like time, so you can't drop the mic just yet. All right, let me show you this because this is why I wanted to have you on during the month of September. All right, so I've been doing this series on small business trends, this one-on-one series, kind of morphed into what I do a few good minutes with the live stream stuff. But it started off purely, I think we just jumped on the phone and I got a transcript or something. I can't even remember.
Is this the transcript? You got to send me this. I want to see if I'm still on track with my inbox.
I will. So let me highlight the date. So this was published. This is the very first one-on-one conversation I had for small business trends. It was with the right reverend here. It was September 3rd, 2010. So we have literally passed the 12-year mark. And so I always want to come back, and almost every September I want to have you on because this is where it all started. So I appreciate it, and we always have great conversations. And so there is a transcript. This is on smallbiztrends.com. I'll share the link with you so you could go back to it. But here's one of the things that I pulled out. So I asked you 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Is CRM as important then as it was when you co-founded Goldmine? And this is your answer. CRM is absolutely more important today. The old ways of touching your customer just don't work anymore. If you empower your team to listen and engage, it will transform your business. And by leveraging these new methodologies of connecting with customers, they can transform their businesses faster past the plate. Well, I added that, but all right. So that was your response 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So if I ask you today, is CRM more important now than it was then? Your response is?
Well, I think that CRM, which stands for Customer Relationship Management, today stands for Customer Reporting Management, because CRMs are primarily used by sales and marketing teams to pound prospects and customers. But if you think about it, Brent, what percentage of salespeople are in a company? Maybe 5%. What do the rest of the company do to manage the constituency around the business in order for it to achieve its business goals? They use spreadsheets today still. Why? Because CRMs aren't built for relationships. They're built for command and control of leads. And most outcomes of business relationships is in the sale. And so CRMs are absolutely more important today than they ever have been, but they're misunderstood. Every business buys a CRM because they think they should, because everybody else has one, but they don't know why they're buying it. It's a friggin' database for people and contacts, and everybody in the company should be using it. Because no matter who picks up the phone, you should know who that person is, what their business is about, who talked to them, what they talked about, and what's going to happen and who's going to do it. And most businesses can't tell you that. American Express can tell you that, but most businesses rely on some sort of email productivity suite. Microsoft or Google are the tools today, but they suck at contact management because every team member in Microsoft and Google has a separate contact database, and email and calendar history and pending isn't linked effectively to the contact. So you don't have a shared contact database in your company for the constituency around your business. What is your constituency? It's more than prospects and customers. Today, to grow a business, you've got editors, analysts, bloggers, influencers, third-party developers, investors, advisors, and prospects and customers. And what you're doing is you're using a CRM to qualify leads to pound them into a deal. But the outcome for 95% of the relationship you have isn't a deal. So you end up in spreadsheets, and that's where Nimble comes in, because Nimble is a CRM for more than just salespeople. Nimble is a CRM for your whole company, and the outcomes of Nimble is much more than deals, because we built workflows that enable you to manage the repeatable business and company processes that you need to do in order to drive them through the stages and the processes you need in order to achieve your business goals. And today, we're not doing it the way I think we should.
All right. Before we go any further, I had to show this. I think this is what we probably looked like 12 years ago.
Jesus, who are those young guys?
But you know what? I went even deeper. I found a really interesting picture with you. Who's the guy on your right? We're actually
that's Ronan. Ronan Vance is to my right.
Yeah.
And Ronan actually was one of the early employees at GoToMeeting. But he also was hired by oh God, who was the name of the guy who launched Microsoft Dynamics? It was the guy, I think he's over at SAP now. You know him. Anyways, the guy to my left is the one and only owner of the Clippers, Steve Ballmer. And he would come and do the monkey dance at the Goldmine conferences, because we literally had 5,000 plus resellers in a ballroom, all basically driving forward, delivering front office business solutions. And he was trying to sell business solutions on top of Microsoft Small Business Server. And he saw that we were transforming those resellers into solution sellers. And he came up with the idea to buy Great Plains Dynamics, the back office, and they should have bought Goldmine, but they built Dynamics, and then hired my VP of Sales, Tracy Kinsey, and my outside sales team, Ronan Vance, to launch Dynamics. And this is basically a year before we sold Goldmine.
Awesome. Okay, I had to ask, because when I saw, I was like, "Wow, look at this! This is interesting." All right. What year did you co-found Goldmine?
89.
All right, 89. So you've been involved with this for 33 years.
Jeez.
33 years, and I don't detect any less an ounce of energy and excitement for this now than you had then. Why are you still so excited and energized by this space, by the work you do?
Because I believe, Brent, that my purpose on this planet is to grow my soul in the brief period of time that I'm here. And the best way for me to grow my soul is by helping other people grow theirs, rinse and repeat. And what better contribution can I give to my fellow humans than to empower them to reach their dreams by building the relationships that they need to achieve their goals? And so I believe in relationship management. I believe that it takes a village for us to achieve our things. Nobody does things on their own. And if you do what I'm going to tell you right now, which is to build an identity and share and give away your knowledge in the places where your constituency learns and grows, with the intent not to bag and tag and sell them more, but to help them achieve their dreams and grow, that you're going to have all these connections and conversations. And how do you manage them? Today, you don't have a personal CRM. Your personal CRM is Google, Microsoft, LinkedIn, and spreadsheets. And so if you believe in the power of relationships, then you should invest in your own personal CRM, your golden Rolodex. And that's why I keep doing what I do, because I love to power people, because it powers me.
Yeah, I love that. Let's talk about the shortcomings. I mean, 33 years. What are you surprised that we're still getting wrong with this stuff in this area in general?
Well, at its core, CRM is a database. And a database should define what you put in and what you want to get out of it. And so I think that most people misunderstand CRM. And so I'm just going to dissect it real quick. A contact manager is essentially something that automates the Rolodex or the daytimer. SFA is something that automates the 6x9 callback card. There's a difference. The callback card was a card that you essentially put the name of the person you're calling, the notes on the call, and the date you're going to call them back. When should I follow up with you? Okay, recall date. Boom. File it on that date. Every day you pull up your cards and you call those people back. That's Salesforce automation with a little bit of forecasting in a spreadsheet. What happened was Goldmine and Act pioneered relationship management, and individual people loved it because they all rolled with Rolodexes and then daytimers, and it helped them achieve their relationship goals. SFA just accelerated that sort of relationship outreach. But then CRM was built because Microsoft came in and basically copied Goldmine and built Outlook, and Outlook and Act had to shift up in the marketplace, and they grew into the needs of the customers by delivering SFA, market automation, eventually CRM. But CRM really didn't take hold till Siebel came in and built the enterprise CRM because management was afraid of what sales reps were doing with their individual contact databases in Goldmine and Act. And I think that we lost our way in the core of CRM, which stands for customer relationship management. Now it stands for customer reporting management, because the reason they call it Salesforce, you have to force salespeople to use it. No one in their right mind would use a CRM if they weren't beat on to do it. And Brent, I'll bet you don't use a CRM. And so what should a CRM be about? It should be about contacts and relationships at its core to empower the customer-facing business team members, not just salespeople, to build the relationships that your company needs to achieve its goals. And then it should have the functions to do the individual things like sales and marketing and the analytics and things you need to do for management to keep the finger on the pulse of the business. But today, I think that CRMs aren't delivering on the promise of relationships. And I don't think that Microsoft and Google are delivering on the promise of contact management. And SFA is still a big hole, which is why Outreach and SalesOft is something that my son uses for sales as an SDR, because CRMs don't deliver SFA. So CRMs don't deliver contact management or SFA effectively. And this is a big problem. This is the whole Nimble's filler.
Okay. So there's a lot there. And apparently there's a lot missing there still 33 years into this. So what have they, you talked to a lot of small businesses. Are you getting a sense that they're feeling any more confident about, using CRM? Do they feel like CRM gives them any kind of real advantage? Does it really help them? Or are you still hearing a lot of apprehension?
Here's the big problem with CRM. There's 225 million global businesses, less than 1% use any CRM. Why? Because you work for the CRM and you have to go to it to use it. So before a meeting, if you're diligent, you Google somebody, then you go log that in the CRM, and then you engage with them. You might engage with them on email or social or Zoom or face-to-face. And then you got to go back and log that in the CRM, because the CRM doesn't work where you're working. It doesn't live in your inbox. It doesn't live in your Zoom or your Teams. It doesn't live in your LinkedIn or your Twitter effectively. And it doesn't work for you. Your CRM should do the non-human things like automatically building a record and logging the interactions. You could do the human thing, which is listening and logging the note and scheduling the next task, because it's the basics that wins games. And most people don't do the basics because they're too busy doing the hard stuff, which is data entry and typing. And I think the biggest cause of failure of CRM is lack of use and bad data, because even if you do type the stuff in, it'll decay like fish. So most people, don't define what their CRM should really be doing, other than maybe capturing a lead and putting it in a drip marketing thing and maybe handing it to a sales rep who can pound it into a lead, which is 5% of all the contacts in your company. And I think that they fail because they don't deliver on the promise. And the promise is really empowering that customer-facing business team member to be good at engagement. And to be able to engage, you need to listen, because you need to learn what you need to do to add value. But most salespeople don't listen because they're too busy typing the shit in the thing, trying to log all the stuff so management gets off their back. And so I think that a lot of small businesses buy a CRM because everybody else has one and they think they should have one too. They don't really define what should go in or what goes out. And then at the end of the day, they have it, but they're not really using it. So most people use a CRM as a contact manager, period.
All right. So inflation is still high. Lots of folks are really worried about recession, particularly small business folks. Where does CRM fit into this equation, particularly for small businesses? Does the specter of recession provide an opportunity for CRM to help small businesses?
Well, I think it does because it helps you to find the needles in the haystacks. I think that you need to look beyond your prospects and customers to figure out how to grow your business. I'll give you an example. The thing that really accelerated Goldmine was our relationship with Microsoft, BizDev. So what happened was our customers started coming to us and saying, we need a database that scales bigger than DBase, which was our backend database. Our resellers are saying, we want to make more than the dollars off of Goldmine. Microsoft came to us and said, we want to sell NT Server, SQL Server, and Exchange Server, small business server. We solved all that by building Goldmine Enterprise, which basically required a seat of NT Server, SQL Server, and Exchange Server for every seat of Goldmine, which solved our customers' need to scale, our partners need to make $10 every Goldmine dollar, and Microsoft's need to sell its SQL Server, which nobody would buy without a third-party product to call for it. So Microsoft pushed the crap out of us, and we got to $100+ million a year in revenue. Fast forward to today. Nimble built itself by building relationships and integrations with Google, just like we did with Novell back in the day. Today, Google is yesterday's Novell. Small businesses 10 years ago used Google for the cloud to tie together all their PCs and do productivity. Microsoft doesn't innovate, they iterate. They wait for somebody else to build the market, then they come with their muscle and build something good enough and use that muscle to scale billions of users and hundreds of thousands of VARs. I saw that 7 years ago and built integrations with the products, relationships with the people, got us access to the programs. And now Microsoft is our global reseller, and we've become the simple CRM for Microsoft 365. Now, why would Microsoft push Nimble as the CRM for Microsoft 365 when they have Dynamics? The reality is Dynamics fits their bigger customers. It doesn't fit their resellers, and it doesn't fit their SMB customers. And Microsoft needs something to not only help deliver something that makes Microsoft 365 sticky, but also something that drives adoption of Power Family products, Azure, and even training wheels into Dynamics, because I'll argue that Dynamics wouldn't have scaled the way it did if there wasn't a goldmine to teach small businesses how to use a CRM and then grow into a bigger tool. And so BizDev is a huge thing that can grow your business. But how do you manage that biz dev? How do you manage the relationships? And not just the biz dev, but the press and the influencer and the PR and all the things you need to do for storytelling. How would I manage relationships with people like you as an analyst or Ron as a writer if I didn't have a process and a tool to do it? And so if you're a small business out there listening to me today, you need to think beyond prospects and customers. You need to empower your team to share the relationships across your company, not just in the pre-sales, but the post-sales and all the other relationships that you need to grow. So you need a company CRM. And if you have a company CRM, you need an outcome other than deals because you're not selling to everybody. And so today you use spreadsheets to outreach. Brent, have you ever used a spreadsheet to outreach to a group of people?
No.
Oh, yes, you have. You lying. You lying sack. So why do people use spreadsheets? Because they need to have a row and columns of data and fields to visualize the people to outreach, but that doesn't work. And so people switch to things like Trello and other things. So we basically built workflows into Nimble that enable you to add somebody to a workflow wherever you are. Have you ever connected somebody on LinkedIn?
Of course, yeah.
Why? What purpose? What workflow? You probably mentally have one, but you don't put them through the process. Right. Imagine if every connection that you build or do everywhere in email and social and everywhere you go, you have a process for the typical people and you put them in the workflow and you can teach your people you hire to manage those processes. You know what? This is how businesses scale. And that's why small businesses need a company CRM, and they need a company CRM that's more than just for salespeople. And they need to be able to manage those repeatable processes and the workflows. And that's one of the things I'm most excited about. Can you tell?
Just a little bit. Just as that. All right. This has been great. What is CRM going to look like in a couple of years? What do you, all right, let me ask you like a two-parter. What do you want it to look like, but what do you expect it to look like in a couple of years?
I think that we're going to have a division between what is traditional CRM, which is a sales CRM, that has evolved from a sales CRM into sales, marketing, customer service platform. So if you think about it, Zendesk bought Base, and HubSpot built HubSpot Sales, and now HubSpot Service, and products like Intercom kind of pioneered that, sort of a blend of marketing and sales and customer service. And I think that should be like the hub of your contact center for a typical business to capture leads and put them through processes. But none of those products are really used effectively as a team relationship manager. So I do believe that people continue to use the traditional sales CRM, which will morph into sales, customer service, and marketing. But I think that a lot of companies don't do traditional sales, and they're going to look for a relationship CRM, a personal CRM. I find that personal CRM is a really big topic that people are talking about, because they all basically use their phone as their personal CRM. They used to use a Rolodex and a Daytimer, but I think we all need to be thinking about that. But whatever CRM you're using, I think that CRMs need to get smarter. They need to automatically build and update the records, and it's difficult now that the APIs have been kind of cut off. I don't know if you know it or not, but LinkedIn gave me the keys to the city. They gave me all their public and private APIs, and Nimble used to automatically unify your Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn contacts and enrich them. But I do think that the APIs that people are using these days, that are basically scraping everything, because scraping has been made legal through the court things that happen, where people will now sell you that, and companies are using APIs to enrich contacts. I think that automatically enriching contacts and then building CRM so it works and lives wherever you're engaging, because if you have to go to it to use it, you won't use it, I think is definitely the future. But I think that we need to think about the concept of relationships and the outcomes, because most people think about CRMs to sell. And I think that the future of relationships isn't about bagging and tagging other people. It's about finding ways to blow wind in their sails. If your focus as a human being is not what can I get from you, but what can I give to you, then we've shifted the idea of contacts and relationships. And I think we're shifting into a higher power and purpose in our world. And that's where I think we need to go in order to really become an enlightened people. And so I think that today, a lot of the CRM software don't understand what I'm talking about when it talks about relationships and a higher purpose and power. But I do believe that we're at the forefront of teaching and preaching that. And I think that other people, when I talk about it, they really get that. And I hope that becomes a more important mantra, is about what can I give you as opposed to what can I get from you.
Wow. Okay. So we go a long time on that one, because I'm a skeptic. I feel like every time a new technology comes out, particularly a new communication technology, whether it's a social network or a channel of sorts, the initial usage of it is, how can I extract, not how can I add? How can I get people to like, subscribe, and smash the notification button, as opposed to how can I help others reach the audience they're looking for? It always, for me, it always kind of comes back to the people's intended use, not the technology.
Yes.
It's all about what's up in here, not about the new iPhone 14 with all the great technology, because all that great technology does is accelerate and spread whatever's up here a lot faster and a lot wider. And if what's up here ain't good for anybody but the person, we're kind of in the same situation we've been in for years.
I do believe, Brent, that we as human beings take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And you could look at it kind of like what happened with Obama and then what happened with the other guy. And I think that there's a resistance to change in humanity, that the old guard has hold of the power and they're not going to give it up easy. And I think that it's going to take enlightened human beings to lean in to facilitate the change. And I think that the change has to be, what is our purpose as human beings on this planet? Is it to get as much as we can in the brief period of time that we're here, or to give as much as we can? And by giving as much as you can, you get everything you can imagine and more in life. And I'm a believer in that latter. And even the greats taught that. Zig Ziglar and Dale Carnegie, this was their mantra, right? And I think we need to go back to some of those old school people in order to drive that future change.
Yeah, I like the 2 steps forward, 1 step back analogy, because it really does feel like your children's generation. It really feels like that generation is not as into kind of the financial things, the trappings. When they look for a job, they're not looking just for the biggest salary. It feels like they're looking for a company that they feel is kind of aligned with the things that they value. And it feels like, I could be wrong, it feels like they take into consideration more things than what I took.
And let's just look at the years, right? I went to high school in the 70s. And if I showed you a picture of me in high school, I had hair, down to here, and I wore Birkenstocks and ate avocado sandwiches and went to Grateful Dead shows, and I protested nuclear power and the Vietnam War and blah, blah, blah. And then what happened? We had the go-go 80s, right? Where it basically became the corporate suits and all about profit and stuff.
Greed is good.
Greed is good, right? More is better. And so we got to that society where a lot of those people were all about filling the garages up from Stuff Mart. And so I really believe that if I look around at, especially accelerated by COVID, where people are sort of giving up on the old sort of corporate greed and dream and moving to small towns and living lives that are balanced, where maybe they're working 4 days a week instead of 5 days a week. And they're still investing in the companies and driving, growth and stuff, but they take time to go out into the mountains and really commune with nature, and they care about the environment and things. And so I really believe that we drive change, and then the old guard kind of holds back and just like, no, you're not going to change. We're going to hold you back. And no. And then we go, no, we really are going to change. Here we go. And inevitably, I believe in the promise of the future that this enlightenment and change will occur. If you just look back to my father's era in the 50s, where they were broadies, and the way they talked about people and things, it's completely shifted, and it's going to continue to shift. And I believe in all that. But I think that software and its purpose has to lead that change. And that's one of the things that I've been doing. I really learned about relationships through my father, who was an entrepreneur and an automobile dealer. And I really value people and the conversation and the connection and the opportunity that creates, like just our relationship and the things that we share. And I believe that software should empower that, which is different than go Google Pipedrive. It's the sales serum for salespeople. Look at Nimble. It's the serum for the whole company, and it's about relationships. And the outcome isn't just a deal. Yeah, we do deals, but we do workflows that help you achieve, ideally, a higher purpose.
All right, John, this has been a great conversation. I'll leave with this because one of the things that we do share are the Los Angeles Rams. Are we going to win this week?
Yes, we are going to win this week, and we're going to have a winning season. The Bills were tough, Brent. They were a hungry team. When you don't win, you get hungrier.
Yeah,
and they were ready. They were ready to play.
We weren't. I think
we weren't ready. We were Hollywood, you know. And I used to accuse Jared Goff of being too Hollywood, and I think that it's easy to get seduced by this beautiful weather out here and the beautiful people and the beautiful places, and they didn't have their eye on the ball and they got spanked. Yeah. And as professionals, they should be embarrassed, and they're better than that. And that goes top to bottom in that team. And I do think they are better than that, and they are capable, and they will step up as professionals. Last year, opening game against the Buccaneers, they were ready to play because they were hungry. This year, they weren't as hungry. They better get hungry, Brent, because they are the Los Angeles Rams, and this is our house.
Absolutely. Look, let's face it. There was a lot on the line for Stafford and for almost everybody because we hadn't won it.
And they made the big bet.
And then they brought in Von Miller. And I mean,
don't get me started. Von Miller, he had something to prove, didn't he?
I think we kind of lost a little bit of that since we won. I'm hoping, getting smacked around a bit, open people's eyes up, get them a little bit more focused. And luckily we play the Falcons. So let's hope. That's what we can do. John, this has been great, man. I really appreciate it. And I definitely want to make sure we don't wait another year to talk, but I also want to talk in a year because that means I've done another year of this. So.
All right, Brent, always a pleasure. Appreciate our friendship. And I appreciate you continuing to hold the conversation and the court around what is enterprise software and the people that build it and its purpose. And I hope that you take away from our conversation here today a little bit of that higher power purpose that I'm trying to drive in the world about what software can and should be doing. And I'll leave you with this. Do you remember the Serum conference that you showed the picture of? That's where we got together 10 years ago.
Yeah.
There was a guy from Oracle, Anthony
Lai.
Anthony Lai.
Yeah.
And this was in the depths of the 2009 financial crisis. And he got up there and said, the purpose of enterprise software is to eliminate human headcount.
Wow, I don't remember that. Jeez.
Oh yeah, he did. I do remember it. And it just rubbed me the wrong way. It might be true. That might be the truth, especially coming from Oracle, which for me kind of epitomized at least 10 years ago, the bag 'em and tag 'em, kill 'em enterprise mentality sales rep thing. And you could tell me I'm wrong, but that for me was the truth of what I saw, the way their sales people interacted and what he said. And I believe that we all have a responsibility as entrepreneurs to drive higher power purpose and change in the world along the lines of what we've discussed here today. And I think our software has to have that higher purpose, which is why I keep being and doing things the Nimble way.
This has been great. By the way, I don't think that's the same. I think Anthony's been gone a while, so I hope it's not the same anyway. But I got to look back on that. I think actually I want to check that out because that's pretty fascinating that you remembered that all those years ago.
Brent, it struck me because around me there were millions, billions of people losing their jobs. And this guy gets up there but you know what? It was the truth. He was speaking the truth. And the audience was enterprise decision makers, and they probably wanted to hear that. But to me, as a human being, it rubbed me the wrong way and drove me even harder into my passion and purpose in life, that that software ideally is changing the world for the better and not for the worse.
Yeah. Well, I think you, Schritter from Zoho, more, there's actually a lot of them. I think that's the sentiment that I'm hearing and seeing more of, what you kind of, the gospel that you just dropped. I think with folks like you guys out there, there's hope that we use this technology to improve people's lives, even if it's just a work life. But I think it goes beyond that. And I see more and more examples of that. And I hope it continues to go in that direction, because the world would be kind of a very sad place if we use technology just to eliminate humans.
Well, I'll tell you, Brent, if you look at what China is doing with surveillance and AI and future robotics, you know, it's scary what software and technology can and will do in our future lives.
That's true.
And I think that the more digital we get, the more human we need to be. And I'm worried about the future in regards to how technology is going to be used. And I think we all need to fight back. And privacy is hugely important, blah, blah, blah. And so let's continue this conversation. And in the meantime, please give my love to Paul Greenberg.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. But you just dropped the gem. The more digital we get, the more human we should be, or we need to be. That says it all right there, folks. That's the mic drop for you there, Jon. It's a perfect mic drop. All right. Thanks so much. We will definitely be talking sooner rather than later. Go Rams. And I'll see everybody tomorrow on CRM Players. So enjoy the rest of your day, folks. See ya.